Mr. President, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It's a little belated, but welcome to NATO.
Thank
as
you.
well.
Yeah, it's a little bit too late. Better late than never.
So, as you know, because you were here for the week, there were concerns among members of the president's own party as to his cognitive decline, his fitness for office. Here's what one senior European diplomat who was at NATO told one U.S. news outlet, quote, "It's a very weird feeling to be in Europe listening to the president of the United States, and you're more stressed about whether he will go off script than being excited to listen to the leader of the free world. You're worried if he knows which direction he's going, or whether he's going to fall, or what he's going to forget, or if he'll say North Korea when he meant South Korea. It's just a weird experience." Do you share those concerns?
Well, for me, it wasn't a weird experience, albeit this was my first NATO summit ever, and I certainly don't want to get involved in American domestic politics. I think the NATO summit was a raving success. I look at it from the perspective of international relations. We gave a very good deterrent to Russia and to Putin. We had quite strong language on China. I quite enjoyed the summit.
Right. Okay. But at the same time, the president, who was leading the NATO conference here in the United States, made several gaffes at that news conference last night, some of which we want to play here.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky. Today, I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia. Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be Vice President.
Does that inspire confidence in you?
Well, I mean, again, I spent the better part of 48 hours with the president and with 32 other allies. I think the atmosphere was very good, the conversation was very good and very constructive.
I mean, I don't want to belabor a point, but when you have the leader of the free world, which is what the American president is known as, going to bed at 8 o'clock, his adversaries, Xi Jinping of China, who you know is a major player in the problems of the world, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, the Ayatollah, they're not going to bed at 8 o'clock. Does the United States, because a lot of Democrats feel this, do you believe the United States needs a more robust leader, perhaps someone of your age?
Well, probably 2 points on that in general. You'll probably know that I'm a very avid pro-American. I've studied, I did my undergraduate work here, and I've always followed a lot of American politics. The biggest worry I have about American politics right now is that it's so divided and so polarized, and the whole political debate that you have is so toxic, and I don't want the free world to follow that. I want there to be more respect, so more worried about the national internal climate in the U.S. If I look at foreign policy all the way from the George W. Bush to Obama to Trump and to Biden, I still think it's very steadfast. It's on track. We have this sort of large Western alliance which the United States is leading, regardless of who is the president.
But we hear all of this talk sort of through back channels among folks in NATO that they're hoping that Donald Trump doesn't become president again because they fear for what might happen, particularly with NATO, if Donald Trump becomes president. But let me go back to November 14th of 2019, when Jens Stoltenberg visited the White House and President Trump and said this about the visit.
This shows that the clear message from President Trump is having a real impact. This is making NATO stronger. The reality is that NATO is actually stronger and more agile than we have been for many years.
So despite all of the complaints, Jens Stoltenberg was quite happy about what Trump was doing, saying that him demanding that NATO nations come to the table with 2% of their gross domestic product toward defense is making NATO stronger. He said that NATO had gathered in more than $100 billion more than it had before because of Trump's policy. So is a return of Trump really something to worry about?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it that way. I would actually like to give Trump credit, because I think he was right on the 2% limit. And look, in 2014, out of the allies, only 3 reached that level. I think in 2018, it was something like 10. Now it's 23. Would that have happened if Trump hadn't pushed for it? I don't think so. Would it have happened without circumstance? Probably not. But we're moving on that right track. Secondly, a lot of people forget that during the Trump administration, America actually increased its military presence in Europe. And to be honest, I'm really happy as a new ally that we've just forged a defense cooperation agreement, DCA agreement with the United States. We have a lot of American soldiers, we have a lot of American material. We're going to do a lot of work on military policy with the U.S. So I'm probably less worried than some of the pundits.
Including new icebreakers.
Oh, yes.
We've only got 2 of those, so we could use more.
And you know how it goes. 80% of the world's icebreakers are designed in Finland, 60% are made in Finland. Now we have this wonderful ice pact together with Canada and the U.S.
As I mentioned, I was in Finland with President Trump a number of years ago. I think it was 2018. Had a lovely time. Beautiful country.
It is, and I think one of the things I want to tell all of your audience is that we are a new ally, but we are a security provider, not a security consumer. We have one of the largest militaries in Europe. We have a lot of American military material, including F-18s and F-35s. We've just doubled NATO's border with Russia, but I think we are a pretty safe pair of hands.
Yeah, we should mention you got, what is it, an 800-mile border with Russia?
1,340 kilometers.
All right. Mr. President, thank you so much for dropping by.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.